Produced by Podcast Architects.
Welcome back to another episode of The Path Forward. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Rick Fernandez, and I'm here today in Taylor ISD, right outside of Austin, with our guest, Dr. Devin Padavil, superintendent. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Well, I'm excited. You got a lot of exciting things going on, and we're going to jump into those. But first, tell me a little bit about your career path. How did you get here?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I was a pretty unsuccessful student. I was a little bit lost, and I graduated high school last in my class, and going into education wasn't the first thing that came into my mind. But
I gotta ask, because I've not heard most superintendents, high flyers.
Okay.
What about your school experience? Why do you think, what perpetuated some of that, do you believe?
In the 90s, I don't know if this was so uncommon in a lot of schools, but in the 90s, they were just, it was more of a traditional school system.
Right.
The school's job is to teach, and it's the kid's job to learn, and there was really no safety net for kids that just didn't bond with school, and I was one of those kids.
Really?
Had a lot of stuff going on in my life, but like a lot of teenagers, and I see it even today, when they're upset or angry about things in their life, they take it out on school.
Absolutely.
Take it out on the schoolwork, and I was one of those kids. So, I graduated high school, and I didn't think I was going to go into education, but I really wanted to give back. My first path was to be a criminal justice major.
Okay.
And I remember getting out there and working with little kids, and as part of my volunteer hours. And I was like, oh man, this is what I want to do. I want to work with students. And I went into education, and it just clicked. Everything clicked. It feels like work, but it doesn't feel like work. Every day I think about what a blessing it is to be in this career. I was a middle school teacher. I was an elementary assistant principal, middle school principal, high school principal. Where I spent the majority of my administrative career as a high school principal.
Okay.
I just loved it. But I knew I wanted to have an impact on more students. I was an area superintendent, assistant superintendent in Leander, Fort Bend, Houston. And then I got the opportunity to come to Taylor. Something really attracted me about this area.
Really? Mm-hmm. Well, jump into that. What was it about the community, about the students that said, this is the place for me?
I just see it. I see the potential of this place. Every time I look at this district, I see what it could be. And I knew when I came out here, it was going to be really tough work.
Mm-hmm.
This is the work of putting in systems to help, in some ways, an underperforming school district believe in themselves and become the district that this community deserves.
Now, you talked about your pathway. Do you believe that kids will rise to the expectation of the adults?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just telling the story this morning. When I was in middle school, I didn't think I was really good at math. I really struggled in it. And all it took was I was walking down the hallway, and my 8th grade teacher, Mr. Oberhart, said, hey, you did great on that math test. You're pretty good at this. And he just kept walking. That's all it took. And all of a sudden, I was like, I'm good at math. And for the rest of that year, my grades were great. It was the expectation was set. The message was planted. And, part of what we're doing here is not being okay with just okay. They're in a mixed demographic, but mostly Title I school district. It is very easy to believe that the positive results from, let's say, 25% of our students, who, let's be honest, would be successful in pretty much any school,
right,
are an indication that we're doing a great job. And instead, it is making sure that we are doing absolutely everything possible to help our most reluctant learners believe in themselves and perform in school.
So if I can back up for a minute. So as you're thinking about your school experience, right, and then what you want to help bring to Taylor ISD, who are some of the people in education along your path that gave you the nudge, right, or were the mentor when you were struggling, or where you felt like, I'm just not a good math student? Do you have a couple of people that, that was a tipping point for me? You mentioned your math teacher. Was there others along the way that said, they led me to give back in this way?
Yeah, you can be, I think when you talk about motivating someone to achieve what they're capable of, you can either be motivated by love or by a chip on your shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna lie, for a lot of my career, I was motivated by a chip on my shoulder. I had teachers that said, "Oh, I could tell they didn't think much of me." I even when I went to college, I had people that said, in indirect and direct ways, they didn't know if I was teacher material or principal material, and so I used a chip on my shoulder. But it's really important that I don't forget how many people believed in me along the way. My senior year English teacher, and keep in mind, by the time I got to my senior year, I'm pretty sure every teacher that saw me on the roll was like, "Oh man, this kid." And
Now, were you a little bit of a behavior challenge or no?
No, I never disrespected teachers, but I didn't do any of my work.
Okay.
And I came to class for my friends and to mess around.
Yeah.
But I never disrespected teachers.
Gotcha.
That just wasn't me. And I got to this class, and Miss Klesson, my senior year English teacher, she treated me like I was the smartest kid. And she always we would read these Shakespeare parts. She'd always assign a part to me. I'm like, why do you keep asking me to do stuff? And then I remember that we had this writing contest, and this is just a life-defining moment for me. We had this writing contest among the 3 high schools in the town, and you submitted a writing piece, and if you got in the top 3, you won a scholarship, anything from $1,000 to $500, right? So she asked me to submit something, and she's like, "You're a good writer, you should do something." I'm like, "No, I'm not going to do this." And so she kept pushing me, and I'm like, "Why are you giving me a hard time about this?" I said, "I want to do it." And finally, I remember it was the night before it was due, and I was like, this woman's going to give me a hard time tomorrow. So I wrote this essay, not an essay, but I wrote a short story for this creative writing contest. And I submitted it. No edits, 1 take, didn't even look at it a second time. And I printed it from this dot matrix printer,
Yeah, I remember those, yeah.
Tore off the little side.
You started it when you went to bed and it was almost finishing when you got up?
Right,
Yeah.
tore off the little pieces, gave it to Ms. Klesson. I said, here you go. And it won second place.
Really?
Yeah, I ended up with $500, and I look at this, and I'm like, well, I can either go spend this on no good, which is what I was used to spending money on, or I can really give this college thing a try. And I went to school.
Where'd you go?
I wouldn't have gone. I went to a community college
Okay.
in the middle of Illinois called Heartland Community College. But really, my path after high school, what I was planning to do is I had a job lined up at the Firestone tire plant. It was going to pay $18 an hour, which in 1996
That was huge.
was huge. I figured that would set me up. I was
Yeah.
going to be good. But, I just kept working at this hardware store, and I went to this community college, and I figured out how to do school. And it was tough. My first year of community college, I put in my best effort. I made C's and D's. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I cannot believe working hard is getting me C's and D's. But it's because I didn't know how to do school. And then I just kept pushing at it. I had that moment where I liked working with kids, and I transferred to a 4-year college, graduated with a degree in education, and here I am. What is this? 23 years later, I get to serve as superintendent and have an impact on kids and help. Every day I'm here or on a campus or working with principals, I'm trying to think of who are those kids that we can help extract
Right.
from their situation to give them a fighting chance of making it in life after this place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you remember the title of the essay you turned in?
Man, I don't, but I can tell you it was borderline inappropriate. And I kind of did that just to mess with Ms. Klesson a little bit. I threw in a little bit of profanity.
Oh, here we
curse
go.
words.
Kids,
Yeah.
public service announcement. Don't do that.
No.
Taylor ISD, your language
No,
arts
but
class.
she let it fly. It wasn't a lot, but I
Right.
threw in a couple words just to be kind of racy. And I remember it had to do with being on a train and this kid feeling lost. It was kind of like symbolically autobiographical, but she loved it.
Awesome.
And she submitted it, and it got second place. And $500 was enough to give me a dream.
That's awesome. I'm a former English teacher, so it makes sense because as an English teacher, you're always reading for, is this good first? Is this good writing? And then you worry about, all right, well, they probably shouldn't have said that, or but I totally understand that mindset. And she did you a great service by look, let me just take it for what
I
it
will
is.
tell you to this day, I've told Ms. Klesson, I got 2 kids that are in high school now. I've gotten my master's and my doctorate. I got to go to UT. This kid who would graduate last in his class, and I'll message Ms. Klesson, and I'll just say, these kids, these degrees, this job, this life, none of it would have happened if it wasn't for you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You know, you talked a little bit about some of the challenges, right, that's facing the district, and we've gone through COVID, we've gone through online learning and all of that shift. What are the current challenges that you see on the forefront for not only Taylor ISD, but education in general?
Well, I'll talk about education in general on the macro level. I'll whittle down to Taylor ISD, but I think in ways we can't quite explain yet, kids and teachers, and especially kids and teachers in less privileged environments, took a big hit from COVID. You know, one of the areas we're focusing on in the district is really improving math performance. You know, you think of a fourth grader trying to do math. Well, second and first grade math was all online. It's hard to learn math on Zoom if you're doing anything at all.
Sure.
So we are trying to make up all kinds of gaps and build student confidence in a way where kids can perform at the level we expect. We're trying to keep up with a system that the state puts in place that has an expectation that basically COVID didn't exist. It's time to keep up.
Right.
But at the same time, our kids deserve it. We can't do poor me to the kids.
Right.
We can't say, oh, you're behind, it's going to be that way. So we have to do the work to help kids get caught up. And in the school, in Taylor ISD, you know, I think this is month 20 for me. It's kind of like a little kid, right? Until you get past 2 years, you're counting months. But here in month 20, we have done a lot of important work to put systems in place. When I came here, we didn't really have any good system of progress monitoring.
Okay.
We didn't have a good system of what do universal assessments look like, how do we use that data.
Right.
So we put benchmarks in place in my first year here, but we didn't have good collaborative systems
Sure.
to actually do anything with the data. And this year has been a lot of asking people to do something with the data.
Right. The so what?
The so what,
Yep.
right. But the hard part here for us is, you know, we got to keep pushing forward, but teachers as a whole, I think nationwide, are just out of gas. And so we're asking people to do the tough work of implementing systems and responding to student data when a lot of teachers are just saying, I
don't have anything left to give.
I don't have anything left to give, and any kind of change, even if it's positive, is taxing to my system.
Right.
And so we're just trying to do a lot of acknowledging that, and at the same time, helping remind people that this work matters. Even on today, when it felt like I just don't feel like the kids are getting it yet. They're getting it. We're making incremental moves to get kids to where they need to be at the end of the year.
Right. So, and that's one of the challenges for everybody, I think, as I'm in conversations, not only in Texas, but across the country, is that, you know, that student only has 1 year in grade 2, grade 3, right? And we've got all of these challenges that we're facing on top of our teachers really struggling with just the amount of work that it's taking to bridge some of those gaps. So how do you balance that? How do you balance the push versus understanding that there's a national teacher shortage, that teachers are feeling burnt out earlier than ever? How do we go forward when there's these two pull factors that are really impacting the instruction in the classroom? And I always try to frame it as what would I want for my kid, right? I've got a fourth grader, seventh grader, and a 4-year-old. So what would I want? I'd want you to do anything and everything that you possibly could, but I also understand that I need to help you as a parent, right? I need to do more as a parent than I probably have ever done in terms of helping support a school, a district. And that's sad to say as an educator myself. I can do more, I can give more, I can figure out a way to be a support to a teacher or a principal or a school district. And I think from a community standpoint, that's an ask for the community. It's like, if you can give a little bit more to our staff and our school, please do, because our teachers really need that boost,
No, so parent engagement is always going to help, but parent engagement is something we can encourage, but is relatively
Right.
outside
Can't
of our
control it.
control, right?
Yeah.
And so the thing for us to think about is what is within our control. And the conversation I have with principals is don't ask for anything that isn't high leverage, right? So
When you talk about high leverage for our audience, give me a couple of
Sure.
pieces of that.
So I'll give an example. If we're working with teachers and we want to ask people that when you're in the classroom, you have a clear learning intention or objective, like it's very clear what are students supposed to learn today and how do we measure success?
Sure.
Then that is high leverage. Asking for lesson plans each week, high leverage, that's questionable, right? But if the students are clear on what they're supposed to be learning that day and the students are clear on how we're going to measure that success, that's high leverage. And so how can we protect a teacher's time outside of school so that for the 8 hours we got kids, we can just give our all to them? And so our expectation is let's put in max effort when the kids are here. Let's do the stuff that matters. But after school, something that always gives me heartburn is when I see teachers' cars in the parking lot on the weekends, after school. Like the question we have is how can we take off of that workload so that people can do the work that matters? I'll give you another example, and this is the thing that we just constantly have to have conversations and work through. But it's more effective to have kids doing the work in the classroom and have real-time facilitation and coaching from the teacher than it is to assign homework, get it back, and grade it.
Oh, absolutely.
And here's the thing about homework. Kids hate doing it. Parents hate having to help their kids doing it. Teachers hate grading it. And homework has a very small effect size, and being able to say that translates into improving student performance.
Yeah, I used to call it the daily autopsy, right? That's what we're doing. Because if you don't use that, if we're just going to assign homework as a check, and we don't use it, doesn't inform anything, it's just a daily autopsy of what they missed on the test. It doesn't make me a better teacher. It doesn't make them a more efficient learner. So why would we continue to beat our head against the wall?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, assessing learning is incredibly important.
Absolutely.
Assessment is instruction, right? So assessment can take place in multiple ways. It's tests, it's quizzes, it's an assignment when you're right there in class. But you got to ask the question, if 70% of our students are growing up on free and reduced lunch, which not across the board, but in general, a good chunk of those kids are growing up in relative poverty, are they going home to situations where doing homework for 30 minutes to an hour is practical? My kids, they're teenagers now. They've grown up very privileged, and I would call a middle-class background very privileged. They had their own room. They have I bought them a little desk for their own room. They had quiet time. They had both parents at home in the evening to ask about school and check in on their grades. That's incredible privilege that a lot of kids don't get to experience. So we have to acknowledge that some of our kids don't have that. And so what can we do to help them learn while we have them here at school?
That's right. That's right. Capture them while you have them. Absolutely. Kind of switching gears here a little bit, I've always believed that when there's a lot of chaos and there's a lot of turmoil, it provides avenues for innovation. Is there anything that you've seen either you've implemented here or for colleagues, like, man, they took this opportunity, this tough situation that we've been in, and they've used it to innovate or provide an opportunity where maybe before there wasn't one available? Is anything that comes to mind that you've seen?
I think if I'm just going to speak about, this is my second year being a superintendent, I think one way that I've grown as a leader is I've taken off the guardrails in what I thought was the way we have to do things, right? And even when it comes to, like our top two goals are excellence in student outcomes and exceptional workplace climate, right? So when it comes to workplace climate, I feel like I've become a better listener because we really try hard to put in structures. Like I have a teacher advisory committee where I just listen to them. And I hear their feedback on something, and then we try to act on it very quickly. And every time I meet with them, they tell me something like, I didn't know that. And I always remind them, I say, you think because I'm superintendent that I know everything going on in this district, but I actually don't.
Right.
So I need you to tell me from your perspective so that I can figure out what I want to do with that. And I always get good feedback from them. and we just adjust course. And I think the old me would have said, well, let's keep it in place and we'll change it next year. But we're doing a lot of real-time course corrections because we're in that place where I feel like it's kind of like technology. You know how they say it grows exponentially?
Yep.
I feel like every year since COVID is really like 4 years wrapped into one for a teacher. And so we're trying to just really quickly adapt so that teachers feel like we're listening to them and that they're able to do their job more effectively. The other thing is really thinking outside of the box as far as what does it take to motivate students and keep students engaged. So we have found that, little things about like being clear on goals and incentivizing performance and figuring out creative ways for kids to feel hooked into the learning is something that we have to do better.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little career in tech since our show is based on innovation and how that intersects with education. You've got Samsung, like right over the parking lot. What's on the horizon for your CT programs here in Taylor?
Oh, CT is the future for this district, and I really believe that. So
You don't know how excited I get when I hear that because I love it. I love it. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
In the 90s when I was in high school, when you graduate, you either go directly into hourly work, which was my plan originally.
Sure.
Or you go to college, and the perceived or expressed income disparity between those two was supposed to be huge. You go to college, you're going to make thousands of dollars more than you would in
Right.
hourly work. Well, the game has totally changed. It's you can go right as a high school senior, as an 18, 19-year-old, go directly into work with the correct certification and be making a middle-class salary. You can be making anything from $46,000 to $60,000. I'll give you an example. They have precision machining at Texas State Technical College.
Mm-hmm.
It is less than $13,000 tuition. It's an 18-month program, and they got a job placement rate of like 93%.
Yes, they do.
So you can go directly to work, and it's not just Samsung. Samsung is this giant hub that's going to bring together all these ancillary companies, and they're all in the manufacturing sector, and they won't have enough people to employ the jobs that they're going to have. So this is a ripe opportunity for our kids, and for our kids who have grown up in poverty, maybe for generations.
Sure.
This is a life-changing experience that we can give them. So we want to do that through our facility here. You know how it is. It's one thing to tell a kid, yeah, you can go a few miles down the road and get in this program, or you can do it here while you're in high school. And the thing about doing it here is we're saving you tuition. So we'll partner with community colleges. We'll do it here in the building, and that depends on the school bond that we're putting towards the community.
Sure.
By the time this podcast comes out, we'll probably know which way that school bond went, but it's an incredible opportunity for our kids.
Yeah, being a part of the business infrastructure side of the house now, I totally see a different perspective because there are tons of jobs that are available that we can't fill, right? High skill, high wage. And the perception that college is the only path to those jobs, it has changed so dramatically within, I would say, the last 10 is probably too long, the last 5 years. It has changed dramatically where the conversations with our leadership, other leadership in the industry is, guys, college or not, we need skilled workers, right? We need people that can think, that can team, that can communicate. If they can do that, we'll figure out how to train them. We'll figure out what they need. We'll indoctrinate them into the way we do things. We just need good quality people. I think that our generation, because that's not what we experience, selling that new reality to the parents like you and I's age is the challenge, because I think the kids are starting to get it and to understand that there's all these different avenues that weren't available when we were kids, but the parents still having the mindset, because that's what was pushed down our throats, and probably rightfully so at the time, right? College, no other way but college. And that has just shifted so quickly, as you mentioned. How do we help parents come to that realization with the new opportunities out there for students?
In this community, I feel like it is starting to go that way, only because Taylor, for all intents, is a very blue-collar community. And the thing about college is, and we want every kid to be prepared to go to a four-year college.
Sure.
But for what? Like, what are you going to do? And it's not about college. It's not about the piece of paper. It's about what is that life you're going to have afterwards. And so the other thing that's coming up against it is the increasing unaffordability of college.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for a lot of our kids who they are thinking, well, I'll just go to work and I'll find something around Taylor, we want to give them a third path. We want to give them a path to getting a certification that is not a huge amount that they have to pay off.
Right.
And here's the thing about the manufacturing field. Once you get in with your first certification, they will level you up for free.
Yeah,
You will
absolutely.
increase your earning potential without having to go get your master's or your doctorate like you and I did. You'll be able to just be part of the workforce. And it's highly adaptable. They will reskill you if the job starts to change because they need the people.
So what type of industries do you have here for students that would make sense in terms of CTE?
Yeah, right now in place, we have an incredible and growing welding program. We have an automotive program. We have hospitality. We have health science. But we want to expand that to include construction and manufacturing. And manufacturing sounds like just a narrow lane, but it's actually an incredibly broad lane.
Huge, yep.
We want to skill kids to be able to program and work on the robots that build semiconductor chips at Samsung. We want to be able to equip kids to design manufacturing pieces that will go into larger machines in other places. And those are highly employable skills. We're not just talking about Samsung.
Sure.
We're talking about any manufacturing company in the Central Texas area or beyond. And welding by itself, that's an incredible growing program. Every year, I'm real proud that we graduate more and more female welders with certifications out of that program. But if those kids are willing to travel, they're going to be making six figures as a 19-year-old with a welding cert.
That's crazy to even think of the power of that, right? To come out of high school, not have $80,000 in debt from college, because a lot of my friends from high school, single parents, right? From the east side of Houston, didn't have money to go to college, so they have this enormous debt when they come out, and trying to always dig out of that, it stalls your plans and your momentum for a good while for a kid. So that is absolutely fantastic news to hear that you guys are moving in that direction and the opportunities. Obviously Austin is, soon enough it'll all be just one big, city.
Yeah.
Because it's just growing so fast. What would you say is, if there was one program on the horizon that maybe you don't have, but this one would be great to maybe start considering? Is there one that you put your finger on? It's like, this is going to be great for our kids, and we're not there yet, but maybe we'll start to consider it.
Yeah, we are in the planning stages of a PTech academy here, and PTech is Pathways in Technology, Early College High School. And that is going to be a great opportunity that helps bring all of those things together, where kids can get that certification and graduate with an associate's degree right out of high school. Save parents thousands of dollars if their kid is in that program. But in addition to manufacturing and technology, especially here in the Central Texas area, I have a hard time thinking of greater opportunities that we can give our kids here. Now, we're always wanting to stay on the forefront and think of where are the career opportunities for kids and be ahead of it. But right now, manufacturing is the key. The Austin Regional Manufacturers Association told us they're going to have the need for 25,000 workers over the next 5 years, and there aren't 25,000 workers available with the correct skills.
No, not at all. Well, I'd like to wrap up our conversation by doing a little bit of off the cuff.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Ready for that? Okay. When is the last time you ate a meal from the cafeteria, the school cafeteria?
Oh, man. I want to say I had nachos at T.H. Johnson Elementary when I first got here. I don't have anything against our cafeteria food. I'm just not much of a lunch eater.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I'm just not a lunch eater. I eat a big breakfast, big dinner, and I just coast.
Power through, right?
Power through.
Coffee? Coffee drinker? Nope. Okay.
No, I gave that up for Lent like 7 years ago. I haven't had it since.
Oh, nice. I've given a lot of stuff up for Lent, but I still have all of it back, so
Yeah.
it didn't
Okay.
work. What's the last movie you watched?
The last movie I watched in theater was Top Gun.
The second one?
Yeah,
You're not talking about the first one?
No, the second one. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I loved it. I've seen it twice now. Who's the person on staff that makes you laugh the hardest, and what are they usually making you laugh about?
One of my curses or blessings, however you want to see it, is I'm kind of sarcastic, and I love sarcastic people. So a couple of our instructional specialists got a real sarcastic sense of humor, and so I just really enjoy talking to them, and we make each other laugh that way when we're getting the work done. Mm-hmm.
Who is harder on the kids about their schoolwork, mom or dad?
What do you?
It's your house. It's your house. Who's the?
My kids are in high school now, and I gotta be honest. This is a parenting kind of confession. I have a lot of regret over how hard I was on them when they were little. That now I'm just like, go to school and be happy. Like I know you do your best. I'm not worried about you graduating in whatever number in your class, because I know you work hard, and it's. I don't need the bumper sticker that said you were in the top 10%.
The honor roll?
Although she is my senior, she's in everything. But I try to, explain to her, I'm real proud of you, no matter what you accomplish in school in terms of rank.
Right,
Just
right.
give your best to school, do your best, and be good with that you did your best.
Effort. Just give your best effort.
Yeah. So I'm pretty easy on them now, but I was the hardest on them when they were little and in middle school. Yeah.
What'd you teach as your first year as a teacher?
Yeah, I've always been a middle school English and math teacher. So my first year was 7th grade English.
English and math. You don't see that.
No, I'm sorry, social studies.
Oh, okay. That's a unique combination. You usually
7th grade English was my first gig, and I'll just say it right now: every 7th grade teacher gets an automatic ticket to heaven. That's a special grade.
I was a middle school principal in Houston ISD.
Yeah.
Yeah. High school is my speed. Middle
Yeah.
school, I loved it, but high school's definitely my
I
speed.
loved middle school. Middle school kids make me laugh. The clay is real malleable, so you can have a real impact on shaping a kid and helping them grow as young people. But ironically, the majority of my administrative career was high school, and I loved it for different reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave Journal. Well, I want to say thank you for joining us on the path forward.
It was my pleasure.
It was great meeting you in person. I know we have a bunch of friends in common, and man, I'm excited for the trajectory of your district. I'm excited for your success. Y'all got some great things. I love hearing Samsung coming into the community. It's going to give some opportunities to your kids. So just want to say thank you and continued success.
All right, thank you so much, Rick.
All right.
Produced by Podcast Architects.